Welcome back to the channel, everybody, to our first segment of Let's Talk Gaming. Today's going to be a good one as today's topic is going to be over the live stream or live service model, in video games and how it's changed the online multiplayer scene. So let's go ahead and get into it right now. So really just starting off when multiplayer games kind of started for me in a sense was back for Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare 2 is kind of when I got into it. Also the World at War, like around that whole 2008 2009 time era. You really didn't have anything in the form of live service content or live service model what you see today in Call of Duty titles, Battlefield titles. Pretty much any online multiplayer game now has adopted this live service model. And what I mean by live service model is that the developers are constantly providing updates to the games, balances to either guns, attachments, perks, special equipment, tactics, things like that. And they're constantly just providing those updates to keep the game running smoothly and to keep their communities happy. But this was not always the case. So what I'm talking about is back in those early Call of Duty days, because it's pretty much the best example I can think of at the moment, because back then the games were very simple. You had a set number of guns that came with the game on release. You had the certain camos, all that stuff. For those games, you really didn't see much updates in the form of maps. I think some of those titles you received a couple add-ons, maybe 2-3 maps, but they were in the form of DLC or downloadable content. So what that meant was you had to pay to get those maps and or a gun that might have came with it. Usually it was just maps though, and that's how you gained access to it and you would play it. The problem that a lot of these developers started seeing is that it made their games become stagnant, and a lot of these maps began falling off from rotations, because if you had a group of, let's say, 10 buddies that always played together, let's say 5 of them bought the DLC and the other 5 didn't, now you have a split in the player base, and now those 10 friends can't play together. Only 5 of them can, the other 5 can't. So what happens, those 5 that bought the DLC will stop playing it and go back to the vanilla base game to play with their buddies. This was also very prevalent in the Battlefield scene. This is when you started seeing the switch to this live service model where maps and things like that started becoming free in a sense. So with Battlefield 4, a prime example of this is they offered premium. So if you got the premium pass, whenever the new maps would come out, you would just update, you would have access to it. You paid a certain fee for that premium access, obviously, but the same kind of concept was applying. The maps would be very populated for the first couple weeks, months, but eventually you started seeing that plateau, and eventually the player counts began to slope off. And it was always due to, not being able to play with your friends, not being able to play with your squad, because, maybe they couldn't afford it, maybe they didn't want to buy it, whatever their reasoning was, they didn't get it. So for DICE, they, started adopting that live service model with Battlefield 1. And they saw some good success with it as these newer maps began staying more populated, just like the vanilla based maps. And you started seeing more companies adopting this idea of giving their communities content instead of locking it behind a paywall, and basically splitting their player base and their community, and eventually making the maps and cosmetic items that they put behind these paywalls almost not worth it, and almost a waste of their time and money, so to say, in developing these maps and cosmetic items. So when we look at things today, live service has pretty much completely transformed the online gaming community. Now it's pretty much expected that every company is going to be releasing maps for their game. It's going to be at a faster pace, and those maps will be free. So if you are a game development company and you decide to make a multiplayer, I'm just using FPS titles as my go-to just because that's what I play the most of, and you don't offer that, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. But this also kind of ties into my previous video on the gaming community being spoiled, and that we now expect so much from these developers. But the live service model is still kind of interesting to me, because I think it keeps us spoiled and it keeps us wanting too much and not being happy with what was initially brought to us. I think it's great for providing quick updates if something is broken in game, there is a bug in game, certain weapons are overpowered, certain abilities are overpowered, whatever the case may be. I think those are great, just to be able to get those quick fix updates. But I feel like the content in the form of the maps is kind of where it starts blurring the line, just because I feel like we as a community start getting so used to the map that was originally brought to us, the cosmetic items, the weapons, whatever the case may be, because people will spend hours a day just playing this game, and I think they just kind of tire themselves out and bore themselves of the game, which is pretty sad, because I think they're thinking in their mind, well, it doesn't matter, the developers in about 3 months are going to release a new map for us, new guns, new cosmetic items, things like that. It's kind of sad to think of like that. I think no matter what, we should always enjoy the game. If it's a good game, obviously, if it's not good, then it is what it is. But if it's a good title, just enjoy it, enjoy what was brought to you initially, and there really should be no complaining unless something is broken and the devs are just not listening to their community and not wanting to fix anything. But for the Battlefield community, just going back here a little bit, they saw great success in bringing this live service model in the form of maps and locking cosmetic items like player skins, weapon skins like that behind paywalls, because that wasn't really going to be affecting player counts across these different game modes and maps. It got tested with Battlefield 1, and I think it had a lot of success. Even if you go back and play Battlefield 4 today, all you're really seeing is the vanilla based maps, which is kind of sad because a lot of those DLC maps were amazing. So there's only, like on PS4 that I know of, there's usually only 1 or 2 servers running DLC kind of content maps, but it is what it is. So if you have access to it and you bought premium, then you're good to go. If not, you missed out on a lot. And I think the developers made a good call in going with the live service model in that sense, but kind of in a weird, it can go either way. I think it gets abused just because so much content can be put out so fast. And I think now people expect way too much. And I think a lot of that also came from Fortnite, because the live service model with Fortnite is constant updates, constant map changes, constant player skins, constant emotes. I mean, just never changing updates. So when people got so used to that and they start looking at other titles in the gaming scene, and they're not seeing that same update ability, they're kind of torn, and I think they get a little frustrated, which I don't really agree with. It is what it is. There's always a disadvantage. There's always advantages to things and disadvantages to them, and that's definitely a disadvantage. Yeah, guys, I'm really curious to know your thoughts on this, the live service model. Have you seen it come to play? For newer gamers that are younger that, may have grown up to only know the live service model and not get to experience online gaming before then, leave your thoughts as well. And what you think on the idea of having to buy DLC content in the form of maps and things like that versus it just being free and offered to the game. I think this is a hot topic, and I think it's going to cause for great debate, because I think two strong sides to each argument here on if it should go back to the way it was or if it should stay the same. Yeah, guys, I really want to hear your thoughts on this, so definitely leave them down in the comment section. And if you were enjoying today's video, definitely consider leaving a like and subscribing, as it does help out the channel, and it gives me a better indication on if you want to see more videos like this one. Yeah, guys, this is going to be a continuing segment. I have a lot more ideas and topics I want to talk about that I'll be trying to pump out at least one of these videos every week, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Yeah, guys, but until then, I will see you on the next video, and thank you for stopping by. Peace.